How's it going, everyone? Matt from Backer Club here, back again with another creator interview. This time we have Claudia Nassif from FITA. She is a second-time creator, and we're glad to have her on the show. How's it going, Claudia?
Hi, everyone. Hi, it's great. Thank you. So we had a great start with the campaign. So we are very happy that we just actually today crossed the 100K mark. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we just have a few questions for you today. I hope that you can answer them to the best of your ability, and we're just going to jump right into it. So, for someone that's brand new to FITA, can you give us a brief overview of the products?
Yes. So we basically develop little devices that make plants measurable and give them a voice. And they work literally like fitness tracker for plants. So you just plug them into a plant, then they start collecting data, and we are doing some really fancy analysis and provide you with a lot of different plant health metrics that help you to get to know your plants better and provide them with the care that they need.
Awesome. That's great. So, how is FITA different from other plant tracking devices on the market?
So I would say, so for one, there actually aren't that many plant tracking devices on the market. For the most part, these are just moisture meters that are only applicable to one particular type of plant or a particular type of soil or size of plant. And this is exactly what makes us different. So it's the modularity and the flexibility of our system. So already with our very first product, the FITA Beam Gen 1, which is a multi-parameter sensor, we have actually included different sensors in the device and have also made sure that you can adapt it to different plant sizes. So you can, for instance, exchange the probes, which is not easy to do from an engineering perspective. Initially, like when we brought out the product in the first couple of months, also created some problems for us, but we managed to pull through it, and it's improving. So exchangeable probes is a challenge, but we managed it, and now we have like all of these new devices that really actually bring or that are really providing a system for every grow setup out there. So it doesn't matter whether you're growing a garden outside or indoors, or whether you have a grow tent where you, for instance, grow cannabis or any other type of plants. We actually have the right devices for you that will provide you with different metrics to keep your plants healthy and growing.
Awesome. Very cool. So, where did the inspiration for FITA come from?
So it was very much like also my own frustration. So I had gardens like outside and inside, and I tend to be quite nerdy. Like when I take up a hobby, then I actually really dig in like really deep. And what I discovered like really quickly was that, or what actually frustrated me was not so much that my plants were dying as such, but that every single advice that I got was contradicted by something else that I read. So, and the sheer fact that it seemed really just like a guess game or a guessing game like all around. And that really frustrated me because I thought, I mean, that can't be right. And then even went deeper into the subject, I also realized that, or I read and learned that all plants are very different species.
Yeah.
So it literally is like if you have 10 different plants in front of you, it's almost like as if you have 10 different aliens, literally aliens that you know
Yeah.
nothing about, and that no one really has a clue about like how to grow them.
Yep.
And you have to feed them, you have to keep them alive, like without really a playbook. And I felt that everything in terms of solutions that we have, whether it's like picture, like image-based analysis, or whether it's actually like books or apps or whatever, that all just fell short of what I actually needed, which is data. I mean, I'm a data
Yep.
person. I love to learn with data, and it's also the only way I can learn. And I thought, okay, there must be a way. And I these plant sensing devices are not new to the world. So actually professional growers are using them quite a lot, which should tell you, if
Yeah,
professional
exactly.
gardeners and growers are actually using plant sensing devices, that, keeping plants alive can't be that easy. So, and so that brought me like to the idea. So, that maybe there is a way of actually taking these professional devices and making a consumer product out of it that may not provide you like with the exact accuracy that the professional sensors are giving you, but maybe with a very well devised or designed data model, you could actually also make up for some part of this data inaccuracy. And that was sort of like the initial idea. So it was very much inspired also by the idea of, fitness trackers in general. Like I wear fitness trackers. I'm very sporty. So, and I thought, okay, so that would be actually amazing if we had all of this data and we could then analyze it like in different ways, and not just tell people like when to water the plant, but also when to repot, and whether the plant is healthy or not, or also provide like predictions when you have to fertilize it the next time based on data, not just on a calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Which, by
awesome.
the way, makes no sense,
Yeah.
to actually have a calendar based. I mean,
Yeah, right?
so just to give you an example, like of how, like for instance, nutrition is like a very important aspect of plant health, right? And you can't really measure nutrients. I mean, not physically, that is,
Yeah.
I mean, not even if you use professional devices, even if they're very expensive, they have a lot of limitations. So, and the question then becomes like, how do you actually determine whether or not a plant needs fertilizer? And so what we do, for instance, is that we get like all of the long-term data and we are looking into like how much light, how much, what the temperature, what the entire environment actually is, and what the water uptake is of the plant. And then we have like something that's called a growth index. And so we can determine whether or not a plant, for instance, is dormant or whether it's growing slowly or whether it's growing fast because it has like
Interesting.
all of the conditions. And based on this information, our data model provides recommendations on how often to fertilize. Because when a plant grows fast, you have to fertilize more often. And, it's these sort of things that we do in the app and with the data that also makes us very unique and very different from everything else out there.
Yeah. How much, speaking about the app, how much of it is actually manually entered? Like, do you actually tell the app, like, which plant, like what type of plant it is, and like
Yeah,
when you actually
yeah.
fertilize it or when
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
actually do
So
something?
exactly. So the very first thing that we need to know is what type of plant are you working with? And we have obviously, we have like an image recognition in there. So you just have
Oh,
to take
okay,
a
cool.
picture of your plant. We also have a image-based plant health recognition in there, which is, by the way, also connected to our data. So that
Mm,
is like, if we, for instance, provide you with recommendations on your plant and with certain thresholds, which are also like different from species to species, from growth stage to growth stage, but also like eventually in time. We are not there yet because we don't yet have enough big data, but we should have soon. But what's going to happen very soon is that we are going to connect like the results from the image-based analysis to the data that we
mm,
have on whether or not you followed our recommendation and how your plant is doing. So an easy example, if, for instance, we provided you with certain watering recommendations and you did everything according to our recommendations, but the image-based analysis actually tells us that the plant actually shows water-related stress. The data model will then adjust like the thresholds for your individual
ah,
plant.
interesting. Wow, very cool.
Yeah, we go
So,
very deep. We are very nerdy when it comes to
yep.
plant health.
So, the people who are growing the plants are actually helping you guys, which is in turn helping people grow other plants. So
Exactly.
it's like a
Yeah,
big
the more
cycle.
data we get, the better we
Yep.
understand plant. I mean, we need to recognize that we know very little about plants. Like no one can really tell you like how much a monstera that is 20 years old or 10 years old, how much water it needs or, what type of environment it actually really needs. Like this data, I mean, we actually had to build this from scratch. So we
Wow.
had like biologists in our team, like two of them who over the past couple of years actually devised like a methodology on how to create like the initial stress indexes,
Yep.
right? But then normally you would, when you have, we have stress indexes for plants that are typically grown in horticulture, for like 10 or 20 crops, but not for the thousands and thousands of
Yep.
plants that are out there. And normally you would have to test them like, in a lab requirement, like in greenhouses with thousands of plants to make sure that your stress index is really correct. And we don't have that luxury for adult plants, but adult plants are very important also like in nature, right? We want to know like how a tree, for instance, outside is reacting to stress and what it then needs and how to detect the stress. And that's basically what we are working towards with the big data that we have, is understanding and developing like a very deep understanding of what plants need and how they experience stress and how we can prevent the stress from happen.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds great. So now I'd like to actually move into the environmental aspects of the project. Can you we'll start with, just kind of a brief overview of how this product is actually environmentally sound and what you guys are doing to, with the environmental aspects of it.
Yeah. I mean, by nature, our entire business model is about sustainability,
Yeah.
right? Because we are trying to protect plants. I mean, not
Yeah.
just your house plants at home, but also outside. And we are also very educational. So we are teaching people how plants work. And, we, for instance, do explain why plant need light. We explain people what photosynthesis is. I mean, some people no longer know that, or forgot about it. So we remind them, how that all works. So we are also providing education through our app, which
Okay.
we believe has an impact on how people treat environment and plants outside as well. Because I think that if you grow an attachment to your house plant or to your garden, you generally tend to develop a more sustainable mindset. But as far as the product and the production process is concerned, we really try a lot of things to make the product as sustainable as possible. So for instance, the packaging is like fully recyclable. So it's made out of just regular cardboard.
Yep.
We're actually using recycled plastic for the
Oh,
casing.
cool.
Yeah. And, the sheer fact that you can actually also exchange the probes. So you don't actually have to buy a new sensor just
Yep.
because you want to have like longer probes, for instance, makes it like very adaptable. And so far, I mean, it's been living, like our old sensors have been living now for 3 years and they're still going on. So it's built for longevity in mind. So I think the only aspect that isn't that environmentally friendly with our product is when it comes to our small ones, is that we do not have rechargeable batteries there yet. The outdoor sensor that we are just offering through the campaign does have a rechargeable battery, and it also has like a large solar cell on top. So that is going to be very helpful. And we are currently looking into the possibility of maybe even including rechargeable batteries in the small devices. But the problem is that the products become then much more
Yeah.
expensive, and if they become more expensive, people just don't want to buy them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the unfortunate truth. I mean, we have people who already have like 150 plus sensors in their homes, and many people, like when they think about like how many sensors they want, they ideally want to equip every plant with a sensor. And if you have
Yeah.
like 10 or 20,
Yeah.
it just becomes more expensive. So we are really trying to offer the beams at a price point that is that people can still tolerate and build on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they can decide how they want to
Yeah,
move forward with it. Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that you went into the battery aspect of it. So do you guys know about how long the battery lasts now in the smaller ones?
Yeah, I mean, we have the bigger battery now, and we do have 4 times more data with the new devices. So, I mean, we would estimate, I mean, right now we're at an estimate between 9 and 12 months.
Okay.
So it's not too bad,
Yeah. No, not too
but also
bad.
not ideal. Like the rechargeable battery in the outdoor sensor should last like, especially if it's sunny, like an entire season. So you probably just have to
Wow.
replace it like after 5 or 6 months. And in any case, you take out the battery and we provide you with a charger and a spare battery. So you just exchange
Awesome.
it and you don't even lose any data
Yep.
during that process because you don't
Sweet.
have to put it on a cable or anything.
Very nice. Cool.
So what's also interesting about our system, this has nothing to do with environmental sustainability, is but the sheer fact that we have different connectivity options, right? So this is also quite
Mm.
unique. So the small devices are all connecting via Bluetooth. And we have different hubs, so we have a Wi-Fi hub, for instance, for indoors. The outdoor sensor carries like a Wi-Fi module, so it can directly connect to Wi-Fi. But the small devices can actually also connect or can use the outdoor beam as a hub.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah, I was
if
going
you,
to
for
ask this
instance,
is
yeah, so if
are
you
you going to
have
have
like,
150 of these connected directly to
exactly,
your phone or is
yeah.
it actually just to like a module?
No,
Okay,
no.
cool.
So you have like this little small little Wi-Fi hub, and you can actually connect like as many devices as you want to the Wi-Fi hub. But the
Ah,
outdoor sensor, which also carries a Wi-Fi module, also can act as a hub. And in addition to that, if you have, for instance, a remote garden where you're not in reach of or
yep.
where you're not in Wi-Fi range, we also have like a small little LTE-M hub. That you can purchase, which is also not with a cable, so it also carries the same battery than the outdoor beam. And, you can just use that and, the beams will perfectly also connect with the LTM hub. And that happens all dynamically. So you don't even have to
Wow.
tell the app which devices should be
That's cool.
connected with which other devices. So you just connect the devices to the app centrally and the devices find each other. So they will speak to each other depending on which device is the nearest.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's very cool. It's a little bit more complicated to understand in
yeah.
the beginning because as all things all things that are very flexible, the more flexibility you provide, the more complicated it becomes in the
Yep.
beginning to
Yep.
understand like how that works. But we are quite confident that we actually, with the device setup that we have, we can probably cover like 90 to 95% of the use cases in
Wow.
the personal home and garden sphere.
That's awesome.
Even hydro, which is interesting. So you can, even if you have a
Ah,
hydro plant, normally you have like this little watering, what do you call them? The watering, the things that tell you how much the water level indicators, right? So
okay.
they're normally attached to hydro pots. So you can actually take them out and then, put our sensor in the pot, and we will then actually look at water levels and measure EC and tell you, how much to fertilize.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. That's what I actually like to do is I'm really into hydroponics. And
Yeah.
so I was going to ask you, could you use this
Yes,
sensor
you
in your
can. The new
hydroponic
sensors you
system?
can. Like the
Wow,
the
okay.
the first generation beam didn't work in water, but the new ones will. So you just have to
Wow.
tell the app. Aside from which plant, we need to know what this. We are asking a couple of other information. Just for instance, in which soil does the plant sit, or whether or not you're
Okay.
actually growing in a tent, which is also important for the
Yep.
light measurement. So we actually apply other calibration curves if someone tells us like that it's growing in a tent. We can actually see this in the data, but it's easier if people are just telling us right up front which ones they're
Yep.
using.
Yep.
And we need initially also like some data around like, when did you last repot and when did you last fertilize? And from then on, the
Mm,
system starts working.
sweet. Um, so just jumping right through here, what is the difference between the original Beam and the 2.0? Or at least what's the main difference? I know there's probably a lot of difference, but
Yeah. So, for one, there are some hardware improvements which are very important. The people who have worked with the Beam, they know that the battery compartment was a bit tricky. It's not easy to open. It's not easy to close. And so the, the initial design, we were first-time creators, right? You don't get
yeah.
everything right. So the battery compartment created problems for some of our users. So that was like the first thing, but it actually the new beams are carrying like a new measurement technology, which is a bit more
Okay.
robust and is enables us, for instance, to measure in hydro. It also like allows us to go outdoors. So all of our beams in the future will carry the same measurement technology, and the probe design is also like quite different. So we had with the first generation beams, we sometimes had some, because it's just like a regular threading mechanism, like how you actually insert the probes, and depending on how often you move the beam around, or if you exchange the probes, sometimes these probes can become loose, and then they lose contact, and the measurement results are being affected. This will not happen with the new ones. We've designed it in a way so that the attachment is like really super robust.
Mm.
But the main thing is also like 4 times more data. So instead
Yeah.
of like
I
one
saw
data
that it
point per
measures
hour,
really. Yep.
yeah. We could also do this with a Beam Gen 1. That would just be like a firmware update, and we might actually even offer that optionally, but it would drain the battery probably
Yeah.
like really fast. So that would be like the trade-off. So, but the new beams carry like a bigger battery, and that will allow us to collect more data, which make then the analysis also a tad bit more
Yep.
interesting, because especially when it comes to temperature shocks, like right now we are measuring like once an hour, and if we detect a temperature shock, then it's typically already too late for the
Yep.
plant, because some plants already die after 15
Yep.
or 30 minutes in a bad cold weather.
Yep.
And so now we have like a 15-minute interval. So if there really is like a big temperature shock, we can immediately like push a message and warn the user.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
So I'd like to jump into talk about your first campaign a little bit. I did notice that it was in 2019, the magic year during COVID, but it did take you guys 3 years to deliver. So what have you kind of? It seems like you guys have waited because the time that you're going to deliver is actually much shorter during this campaign. So it seems
Yes.
like you got to learn during COVID that things can come up. So I think you probably have the product very much almost ready to go now. And
Yeah.
so it's basically just the campaign, and then you guys are going to start sending. So,
Exactly. So the situation is very different. Like we were first time creators, like when we did the first campaign. So honestly, like we actually had to, at that time, we actually had to learn how to build the product and how to go through the production process and what would all require. We also realized that we needed much more money than we raised. So that was like another
Yep.
problem. So we actually had to raise money, right? We had to find money. So
Wow.
that was like one of the things. But then we actually found investors, and then COVID hit. That was like that was that was like a big drawback. So then we had to
Yeah.
wait, right? So and when COVID ended and we finally actually found investors, the problem was that we couldn't get the components that we needed. So there was a supply chain crisis. And then we also had the delivery, we had the shipment crisis. So there were just like, it was just like one
You
thing
want,
after the
yep.
other. It was just like so horrible. I mean, we actually refunded literally everyone who wanted to have a refund. So in that
Wow.
respect, we tend to be like very generous and, I think it was quite fair. I mean, yes, people waited for a long time. And what was actually even worse was like that, because at some point we really had to get the product out, but the entire development process probably would have benefited from probably like 3 or 6 months more
Yeah.
tests, right? So we actually got the product out. We knew that it had some weaknesses, but the reality was it had like 100 more
Yeah.
problems than we anticipated it had. And so we actually had to work through all of these issues like one by one. What is still amazing is that a lot of the backers that we had during the first campaigns are still customers today. And we had many who actually also like back this campaign. So that obviously is amazing, So that makes us super, super, super happy, that we didn't actually lose all of them in the beginning. By now, the customers that we have, I mean, most of the customers that have been with us have been now with us for a year or two. So, they're quite happy,
Yeah.
even with
That's
the Gen
awesome.
1 product. But the Gen 2 products are really going to be super, super amazing.
Yeah, I know it's already off to a great start. So,
Yeah, but now, so yeah, the product is more or less ready. So there's one or two questions that we have to resolve on the soil beams, but we are more or less ready to actually move into tooling. So the next months will be basically going through the production or mass production prototype stages. There can still always be like some
yeah.
unexpected surprises. You never know what comes out here. Sometimes you get one and something doesn't work and, maybe you have to redesign something. But we have a super experienced team by now. And so things are going to be much, much smoother. So the delivery time, we're actually shooting for July, to be honest, but July might
Oh,
be like
wow.
really super short.
Awesome.
Um, so August, yeah,
Yeah.
which is a bit
Definitely
sad
by
because
August.
then the summer season is almost over.
Mm.
But I mean, house plants actually suffer more in winter than they are in summer, and the
Yeah.
outdoor beams are still going to be there. And then there's also like, countries and regions
Yep.
where you can
Southern
still like do
Hemisphere.
outdoor
Yeah.
gardening. Yeah, absolutely, in the entire
Yep.
southern hemisphere. So yeah, it's gonna be great. We are very confident we can deliver.
Awesome. So yeah, talking about like, hurdles, there is one that is kind of facing the US right now, which is the tariffs that have been put into place. How are you guys like handling that?
Yeah, that's been like quite surprising. Like the last time around, we actually had around 60 or 70% of the backers came from the United States. So this time it's been less than 10%, which is
Well,
quite interesting. So we did like really feel um, that there might have been like some more caution, like on side of like people like, backers of crowdfunding campaigns that they may be waiting out what's going to happen because everything is so unpredictable right now and in flux. So we are internally optimistic. So we do actually think that until August, the dust will have settled and we will at least know where we stand and whether or not there will be like tariff exemptions
yeah,
on, small purchases or not, you know. Um, but we are actually currently thinking about, and, probably, I'm almost 100% sure that we're going to do it. That is that we're going to offer refunds like throughout the entire campaign until we actually ship so that if really the tariffs should become unattainable, that backers will have the possibility to get their money back. And if the tariff increase is not going to be so super high, we might even be able to work with the backers and,
yeah,
offer the American ones some additional discounts along the way. We'll have to see how it evolves. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've always returned money if people asked for it, and we stand by it that we will do it this time as well.
Yeah, that's great. I think that gives a lot of confidence to, the US backers that you guys are willing to work with people like that, so I
Yeah,
really, really commend you guys for that.
yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Mhm. Awesome. I want to give you a brief opportunity to kind of give us an overview of the team that you guys, I think you kind of mentioned that you guys have 12 people
Yeah,
right now, but
exactly. So most of them are devs. Not surprising. So we have
yep.
two hardware developers, like one that we just hired like 6 months ago to design like the new series of products. We have, front end devs, back end devs. We have two data scientists and two biologists on the team.
Well,
So yeah, so this is basically the team makeup. My co-founder is Alexander Schmidt, so he's also our CTO at the same time. So he joined around 2021.
awesome. So yeah, you guys got a nice solid team built up. So
Yeah.
gives confidence in the for the backers. So to finish up this interview, is there anything you'd like to say directly to the backers?
Yes. So look at the campaign. We know it's a lot because, we are not just like launching one product, but we are launching actually five at the same
Yep.
time. You may not immediately like figure out like which one is the right one for you, but don't worry. There is actually a WhatsApp chat option on
Cool.
our campaign page. So just click on it. You can ask us anything and we will just help you to get through all of your questions. And we love
Awesome.
chatting with you, so please do reach out.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So, yeah, guys, that was a great creator interview from Claudia Nassif from FITA. Go check it out. It's live on Kickstarter right now and give it a pledge. Thanks a lot, Claudia.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.